the other part of it too is it's not even just hockey, it's other parts of your life too that come into developing for the long game, right? And we talked about this the other day, maybe a few weeks ago, and it was about the concept of like having a backup plan, right? Yeah. And something that if you're playing the long game, you don't need to have something else that you necessarily are focused on in terms of a backup plan, but you still want to be developing yourself in other ways, right? Because you want to be like a well-rounded person as part of your long game. And that plays into being a professional, right? That plays into your professional life. You want to be able to talk to people and have conversations and have social skills and know how to conduct yourself in public and all of those things. Yeah. So that part of it, that's another piece of it where when you're thinking long-term, you want to also have those skills. So that's another little piece of it that you want to think about developing alongside that, right? In parallel.
Yeah, it was funny because Charlie doesn't love school.
Yeah.
And, he, so it kind of goes hand in hand with what you're saying about, not necessarily a backup plan, but having skills that complement what you're doing. Like if you're going to listen, I'll tell you exactly what I tell Charlie, to anyone's listening, right or wrong. It's my life. It's my kid. No, I am not being a jackass when I say that. I'm just saying it's my life, my kid. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I look at it this way. We recognized in the last couple of years that he's got the ability to do something with hockey. There's something. Does that mean the NHL? Don't know. Does that mean the OHL? Don't know, but there's something. So over the next few years, he's going to have to hone his skills because this is what he says he wants to do. And I believe him because his actions speak, not just his words. So, okay. So I told him, I said, if you put everything into this, I'll have no problem with that. No problem at all. I said, because you and I know you differ a little bit on this, but a little bit different, but I don't particularly freak out if he's not doing his homework late at night and dialed into school the way some parents would like their kid to be dialed into school, because I see the effort and the time that he puts into his hockey, and I'm okay with that because I look at it like when he's 15, and if he puts like a lot of hard work into this thing and actually dedicates himself to it and it doesn't work out, he'll be 20 or 21 or 22. And the work ethic, I think that is what you were saying, is that the work ethic and the lessons that he learned along the way doing this properly, you just transferred into another field. And that's why I'm totally okay with it. So I don't need him to get a 99 in science, but I need him to do some and to give a little bit of a rip that he, whatever. And then the second part, I know you're going to jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
But the other part is that where as a parent, I'm aware that I can't have a dumb shit walking around on the on Earth. So like I was checking some of his homework and stuff last year and a little bit this year, and like to say the answer would be like explain who your favorite this is not an actual question, but explain who your favorite hockey player is and why. So he would do the absolute minimum without a capital because it's on a computer, make more excuses than a pregnant nun, and just say, well, my favorite hockey player is whoever, Tom Wilson, because he's good. Now he probably wouldn't even say because, he'd skip as many words as possible. So I would say to him, is that actually a pretty good sentence there, kid? And he'd go, well, I don't know what else to say. I'm like, no, you're too lazy. Mm-hmm. You at some point in your life, you're going to have to form a sentence for another human being. Yep. And if you put that, you fail in life. I said, what happens if a team interviews you or you have to fill something out and you write, why do you think you're a good player? I'm fast, no capitals.
Yeah.
Okay, this kid needs to wear a helmet at all times, right? Yeah. So he had something to fill out for the OHL this year. And as he was filling it out, I said, did you check it? And he's like, yeah, no, it's all good. So we had the copy of it, and it's like, no capital. The give a shit meter is about 0 on this question. So I said, this is what we're talking about. So now it's not the end all be all, but I said, like, now if I'm reading this and I'm actually the GM or the coach and I want to know if you give a shit about life. Apparently you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was like, that's why I told you when in English class, when they ask you for a sentence, to write it out. I said, I know it might be painful, but to formulate a sentence and to articulate what you're saying is actually important. Because when you sit down in your first interviews or an interview on TV or a team interview and they ask you a question, they don't want to they don't want a one-word answer. They want you to articulate it so they know they have someone with half a brain.
Exactly.
So he's been getting better at it, but it's like these are the things, right?
Yeah,
it's important.
And so on the school thing, quick. That I think that's like a failure of teachers in general. And I'm not saying all teachers are bad or anything, so everyone settle down. But what I'm saying is they don't communicate the reasons why the kids need to learn things. Like, why do you need to read, write, and speak? Like, why do you need to do a speech, right? When you're in high school or when you're in grade school. Like, why do I have to do a speech? Like, it's stupid. I don't want to. It's uncomfortable. I don't want to talk. Yeah, everything's stupid. Yeah. Everything's not necessary. But there is actually a reason for everything, right? Yeah. And that's why if the teachers would do a better job of explaining to the kids, like, especially when it's someone like Charlie, he's not an idiot, right? Like, he's not a dumb kid.
He's very smart.
Yeah, he's a smart kid. But you're not giving him because his interest isn't school, right. You're not giving him a good reason to want to do these things, right? But now, and I'm not saying they would know that you need to be able to speak to people in the OHL, but even just saying you need to be able to talk to people when something important comes up and you need to be able to communicate. That's a skill you need to have, right? Yeah. Because that's exactly right. You get someone from the OHL that sends you an email and you have to answer the email, but you don't know how to put a grammatically correct sentence together, or you don't know how to answer the question in full form or address all of the points of what they're actually asking you. Now that's a problem, right? Yeah. And so when you're saying you and I differ, but we don't actually differ that much, because I'm not saying that school necessarily needs to be what you're dialed in on. It's developing those skills is what you need to be dialed in on. So if you choose to not, like, you're not super into your geography class, but you're someone who reads all the time and you know the importance of communicating and you practice those things that you need to have good habits in those areas, that's fine. I think that's great, because like you said, when you're done your hockey at whatever point, which even if you make it, you're going to be done at some point. And then after you're done, what do you do? Because like we said, life's long. And if you're done playing hockey when you're 26, that's a lot of life. Yeah. Right. So you need to have those skills ready to go to transfer, right? And if you're doing that and you can translate those into another domain, that's what I'm talking about, right? That's developing those skills for the long game, right?
I want to be really, really clear for any kid that is listening, or any parent that's listening to, if you because I know how kids are. I know I could name you 3 kids just in your fitness class yesterday that will take what we just said and said, Coach Andy said I don't have to do good in school. Yeah. That's not what I'm saying. Right. I'm saying for my son, based on his commitment level and his talent level right now, it makes sense for him to go all in. And like, basically you have one ass, you can't ride 2 horses, right? Mm-hmm. So I have no problem with him giving everything he's got to this. And the school, it still has to be a certain level.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But that's my kid and my decision and where he's at. Most of the kids on Charlie's team, I would think that would be a very, very bad decision right now. Yeah. It's like a very bad decision. You need to take care of your school, and you have to. Yeah. And I'm not just saying that. The guys, I'm looking you right in the eye right now. I'm not just saying that. I mean that. Yeah. Because just because you have a lot longer road to hoe than what I have to deal with. Yeah,
so. Well, I think, but more clearly, the reason when you're in the position that these kids are in, that when you're in high school, it's actually not riding 2 horses. Like you have enough time to do both, right? You have enough time to do both, so you should be able to maintain a certain level academically, and it's not. It's really, whether it's your choice or not, it's really inexcusable to not do decent in school when you're in high school, because it's actually not that much work.
It's not that hard.
Whether or not they can recognize it in the moment, it's actually not that much work. Yeah. And the benefit that somebody like Charlie has is you are a parent like you are that is addressing these skills. Yeah. Even if it's not directly in his academics, but a lot of these kids don't have that. They don't have an influence from maybe their parents that's forcing them to develop these skills if it's out in a different way, right? That isn't necessarily through academics, right? Yeah. But the nice thing about the school process, if you have enough, if you can identify the benefit of going through it, is that it forces you to learn these things, and it gives you a base set of skills if you can recognize the lesson that's being taught. And that goes back to my point of teachers not really explaining well what the reason is, but you can recognize the reason and say, I need to learn I need to write this essay, not because I need to be good at writing essays, because I need to be able to write down what I think on a piece of paper, right? And that's a skill that you need for your life. So that's why I think, and that's coming from me. I'm a school guy. Like, I'm 100% a school guy. right? And so that's
Why
something
we
that
don't get along.
but that's something that you need to take seriously. You have to develop those skills on top of just
that's
focusing on hockey.
The one I said this to Charlie several times. I think he sometimes thinks I'm just telling him not to say it, but I'm very, very genuine about this. Said this several times to my wife, is that the one regret I had is that I didn't, when I asked teachers, well, when I was going to school, I'd ask teachers, like, why do we have to learn this? I wasn't asking it to be an asshole. Like, I didn't say, why do we have to learn this? I asked them, what am I going to use this for? And I never got a good answer. It was always because you have to. I'm like, oh, gee, that's not the best answer. And that's what they still do.
Yes.
It's not
true.
A good answer.
Nope.
But the one regret I have is that it was the time management thing, and it bites me in the ass to this day, is that learning how to manage time and actually do how you do everything, how you do anything is how you do everything. And if you can manage your time and do well, and do, like, when you write a sentence, you write a decent sentence that makes sense, that's articulated. You look at it and say, okay, that's a sentence. Or your math is, you don't cross your I's and dot your T's in math, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you look at it and say, okay, yep, that's correct. And you took the time to be precise and to be good and to be excellent. And I missed that part. Yeah. And it affected me in tremendous areas of my life, especially running my business.
Yeah.
So I was a disaster, not a disaster human, but all these little things, the time management, you can kind of get overwhelmed when you don't have that base. And I had to learn that on the fly. Yeah. Which is not good. But
well, Derek Lanoux made a good point on this when you were talking. It's that that's a great example of if you can learn a skill when things aren't complicated in your life, when you're a kid and things aren't complicated, you can learn the skill. Then you don't have to go back and relearn it later when things are complicated, right? Like now you're trying to run a business. Maybe you have a kid. Maybe you have a girlfriend. Maybe you're trying to get a house. Maybe you have all these other things that you need to worry about now, and you have to go back and refigure out math because you didn't focus on it when it was easy to learn, right? When your brain was still much more malleable and picking up these things more easily, right? So that's why that's a good thing to take away as well. Like you can learn it now for later. Yeah. But that comes again, it comes back to having that long game mentality where, okay, this isn't like learning the equation of a line isn't of benefit to me right now. And it might that specific thing may never be something that I use, but the process of thinking through how to do this problem is actually something that is beneficial, right? Yeah. And I can extract that skill and then I can generalize it out to other things later, which will be helpful, and I don't have to relearn it, right? But that takes a level of maturity and, again, looking long term.
Yeah. You know? Well, I just had another thought. You could have hockey use you, or you could use hockey.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Thank you very much.